Hit the button.
Hit the button. Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Preston M. Smith. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm Preston M. Smith, at PMS Artwork everywhere on internet land and socials. I want to thank you for landing on this podcast. Whether you're a professional artist, just getting started in the art world, a collector of art, or just consider yourself a creative person, this podcast has something for you. I like to think of it as a fun way to rant and talk to other creative people about living the life of an artist, surviving and getting ahead in the art world, and enjoying your life. But most importantly, not waiting until you're dead to make it happen. All right, let's get started. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, we are recording, and you just signed your life away. So now I can bring this up in court.
Excellent. I hope I do something worthy of this.
Yeah. I think we can get that out of you. Yeah. So we're okay. Well, we are here. It took us a little while. We tried many different sources. This is the first time we are trying a mobile or a long distance interview because of certain factors like the coronavirus. You might have heard of it, COVID-19. We're all being forced to quarantine in our places. And we actually had a meeting set up today. You were supposed to come up here today, right?
I was supposed to brave the 101 and come see you.
That's right. And you're going to be sitting right across from me on this couch that I'm looking at. But instead, we're having to do it remotely. I'm just glad to have you here. This is
Thank you.
Kymm Swank. I was trying to come up with some nicknames for you the other night when I was delirious, and they were all horrible. Have you heard K-Swiss?
I have not been called K-Swiss. That's something I have not been called before.
Oh,
that's a new one. Yeah.
What about Special K?
I've been called Special K before. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
I haven't. I like that one. That one's a good one.
Special K. Yeah, that was my favorite. But I was like, somebody's probably been clever enough to come up with that. But you know what? I'm just going to refrain from giving you any nicknames. We'll just go with Kymm.
That works too.
So you're doing your taxes today?
I'm doing my taxes today, yes. I am taking the time in quarantine to try and get that out of the way as quickly as possible. Right?
Hey, it's got to be good for something. There's a silver lining, I guess, right?
Absolutely. I have the time and nothing else to do. So I'm going to do my taxes.
Oh my God, me too. It's been so crazy. I mean, I've had things to do, but I think this is the first time that I actually haven't been out of my studio / home for a week straight. I'm getting cabin fever.
No, you know what? I have to say, I love this. I certainly do not wish ill upon anybody, and for people who are struggling and people who are legitimately suffering job loss.
Of course.
But for me personally,
that's not what you said before we recorded. I'm just kidding. Sorry, go ahead.
In my official stance, I freaking love this. It's like an artist retreat for me because
nice.
I just finished a really long. I work in the film industry. I'm a camera assistant, and I just finished a really long shoot. And on shoots, on set, you're surrounded by hundreds of people. You've got a walkie-talkie with 6 people screaming in your ear.
Oh man.
I haven't had any time to make art. And so I have a show coming up in July, and I was looking forward to getting in my studio. And now now I have no distraction. There's nobody calling me for lunch. There's nobody calling me to go hang out and have a beer, things that I would indulge in and would distract me from what was going on.
Exactly. Now you can't procrastinate.
I can't. And so
and you don't have the work distraction.
Totally. It's so I don't like to wish ill on people, but I love this actually. It's really cool.
No, that's awesome. For me, it's funny because, depending
Preston,
on.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. There.
Okay. Okay, good. We knew we were going to maybe have some technical difficulties. My internet connection is unstable again. And it said that my mind is unstable. Is that's kind of unfair.
That's a little judgy from your internet connection. I think. I feel like maybe it should relax.
I know, seriously. I might just be projecting. But yeah, for some people it's weird. I mean, that's awesome. For me it's interesting because some artists who tend to kind of isolate already. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's me. I kind of thrive on isolation and, getting stuff done, but I do need some interaction, which is good. Why we're, hello?
There you are. You're back.
Okay. So from my end, I can hear you. I'm hoping it's just continuing to record. So,
okay. So I won't curse and say dirty things.
Yeah. Okay. No, you can definitely curse. We are that type of podcast.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, for the people who are already isolating all the time, it's like now you don't have that ability to get out.
Yeah.
At any point, almost it seems like it's kind of it's unnerving. But I'm also a person who likes to isolate, so we're rolling with it.
Yeah, I can see a lot of my friends are going stir crazy. Like I've gotten.
Oh, I'm sure.
A ton of calls for, hey, let's video chat, let's Skype, and of course because I'm a Luddite and I can't figure out any of that. I'm like, can you just call me?
I think your words were old cave dwelling woman.
Completely an old cave dwelling woman. I am like, it's pretty shocking how illiterate I am.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
The way technology is these days. But people are definitely struggling with it. Stay strong in my stubborn, disabling ways, because it's kind of disabling, truthfully, now. But
it's funny. I was like, okay, well, just hop on your computer. You're like, I don't have a computer.
I don't have a computer.
First of all, that's awesome. I mean, obviously, you're talking to me right now, so you are connected to the internet.
I am. Yes.
So that's
that
good.
web thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the web thing in the sky. But but I kind of envy that. Actually, it's nice. I mean, I think everybody is so overly connected. Although, it's weird in these times, it's kind of a blessing to be able to have all this technology where we can actually communicate. Because I was thinking, had we not invented the internet, for example, we would all be going crazy right now.
Oh, there would be riots and murders and just complete mayhem. Yeah, absolutely. Right. But we can stay connected. We can talk to people. We can keep up on the news. Definitely keep up on our shopping.
Yes. That's right.
It's amazing what we can do with it. So that it's making it much more bearable for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is for sure. They can kind of filter all that anger. You said people would be killing people. Instead, they can just throw that all into some mean comments on the web or something.
Trolling. They're just trolling now.
Exactly.
Instead of rioting, they're just going to troll.
Overt trolling. Exactly. So anyway, speaking of connecting, my wife was driving to work the other morning. I think it was Thursday morning at about 6 a.m. And she was using the voice control on Siri to text me. So it said, Kymm Swank is on Olympia right now. And I was like,
on
what?
Olympia?
I was like, what? Olympia? But I speak Magdalena, so I was like, I think she's saying she's live or something. So I went on Instagram and you weren't live. And then I found out later you were on NPR.
Yeah.
Look at you. You're getting around.
Hey, trying to spread the word. I was interviewed by NPR regarding how this shutdown is affecting people in the entertainment industry, because a lot of us have kind of a unique situation. We don't fall into any of the categories where you can traditionally apply for benefits or government aid. And so because we either don't work enough or we work too much in a particular time period, our work is relatively short term. And, it can look like we earn a lot of money, but, we may earn a lot of money for 3 months and then nothing else for the rest of the year.
Right,
So
exactly.
it makes it really hard for a lot of people. And also, I don't know if SAG is this way. I don't think SAG is. I'm a member of SAG too. But IATSE, the way you get healthcare is you have to work a certain amount of hours in a designated time frame. And a lot of people are not going to qualify for those hours. So they stand at risk for losing their healthcare. So it was an attempt to bring attention to entertainment workers so that with all the legislation that is happening with these aid packages going through Congress, that entertainment workers be included in that, hopefully. I mean, who knows if happened, but
Right.
if there
Who
would be a
knows if
special
that's
thing
even in
for
there
them.
in the
But
political consciousness.
correct. But just to bring awareness to that, I know a lot of artists are in a much more dire circumstance, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know a lot of people don't have healthcare.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's terrifying. So for a lot of people.
And also, how do you prove to the government, like, for example, if you needed to prove that you had a job and you're like a freelancer or you're an artist, like, for example, I have my business, I'm like a sole proprietor, but how do I prove to them my level of income? So if they were to bail us out a bit, how would we know? How would they go, oh, okay, this person makes, X amount of money a month. And so therefore we will give him X amount of money. But if I can't prove that, or if they just go, oh, well, art doesn't apply, for example.
Yeah. Which they easily
screwed.
could do, because it's too hard. It's too hard to classify. So they just, don't think it matters.
Yeah. And if you don't believe us, just see doing your taxes as you're doing today.
Exactly.
It's so hard. It's so hard to, I don't know, for if you're like buying a home, for example, it's so difficult for you to be able to show a steady income as an actor, as an artist, as anything. So I'm assuming it's got to be relatively similar right now, but I'm hoping that they're going to keep everybody in mind.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
You sound very confident.
I'm so not confident. I'm so cynical. When it comes to the government, unfortunately, I'm sadly cynical, but I wish I weren't that way. But
I know we're going to have a sub podcast, a political podcast, and then I'll have you back on for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have a lot to say on that.
Okay, good. So yeah, well, that was going to ask you how it's been affecting you. So it sounds like it's kind of having both a positive and negative effect. Positive from a creative standpoint, negative from a potential monetary standpoint.
Yeah, it is. So there's definitely I'm going to miss a lot of work in the next couple of months, and that's nerve-wracking. Because I also work in the film industry, I'm lucky because I can claim unemployment. And so that gives me something, but unemployment doesn't cover most rents. I mean, it's like I can eat, but well,
because it's only a fraction of your pay, right?
Yeah, it's not even close to it. It's probably a third of what I would get in a month working. So it helps. I don't want to disparage it because I'm lucky a lot of people don't even have that, and I'm lucky to have that. But
right, or a lot of people are losing their jobs too.
Yeah. A girlfriend of mine is losing her job. She works at a nursery. And I guess they consider nurseries essential services. And she's angry. She's like, I don't want to go into work because nobody's paying any attention to social distancing. There's unsafe practices going on at her work. It's like people aren't paying attention. And she's like, I told them I'm not coming in and I'm probably going to lose my job, which means I won't have health care. So yeah, I had this conversation with her this morning. So it's having a very real impact on, again, I'm in a privileged position. My job was almost over. The film that I was working on was, the TV show that I was working on was almost over, was finished with their season shooting. So I had savings. And I had kind of planned on focusing on my artwork for a few months, but other people it's just devastating for them. So
the timing wasn't horrible for you.
For me, no, it was not horrible.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it was best case scenario for me.
It's funny. I think about, because I'm sure people are probably tired of hearing this, but I used to wait tables for many years, and I know a lot of times. Oh my God, yeah.
Just thinking about the poor service sector.
Oh, they're getting
breaks
killed.
My heart.
They're getting killed.
It breaks my heart.
Well, because first of all, you hear different percentages, but they always say like 10% of restaurants fail already, right?
Yeah.
And then you throw this into the mix. I mean, sorry, 10, did I say fail? 10% of restaurants survive.
Yeah.
I think that's what I meant to say. And so just imagine right now. And then as a server, I can speak to that because we didn't live paycheck to paycheck. We lived shift to shift. Like if you
Literally,
missed, if you missed a shift, like you
yeah.
might not be able to get groceries. And then what, these people who are going in and hoarding food and stocking up on a month's worth of food, that's great. But what about the people who can't afford to get, a week's worth of food, let alone a
Yeah.
month's,
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry this is turning into like a coronavirus episode, but
It's what's going on right
it's
now.
what's happening.
It's what's happening right now.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. No, but I think it's important also. I kind of want to be current, and I want people to know that they're not alone, and other artists to know that they're not alone in their struggle. So I think it's kind of cathartic to talk about this.
Absolutely.
That's good that you're. Man, I'm excited that you're going to be able to paint more. That's great.
I'm so excited. And for me personally, it's great because I did a radical, I don't know if you know this because you might not have known my work before Shockbox, or I did a radical style shift. And I don't know if we've talked about this either.
I've done this too, so I'm excited.
Yeah. It was a couple of years ago and I did this dramatic style shift. And so I've been working and the past couple of years, because I've been doing this TV show, I haven't had as much time as I would like to devote to really developing this new way of working. And so I've been struggling and I get frustrated and I'm angry and I don't like the work and all of these negative things that we go through at different times. And I just keep trying to tell myself while I'm not in the studio, just be patient. You just haven't had time to get in there and really stick it out and work it out, which we have to do a lot of times. I think sometimes when things aren't working, before we abandon them, we need to dig in and really be fair to ourselves and make sure we've had the time to develop it. And so that's what I'm excited for, is giving myself this time to try and really develop and see where this path takes me without any kind of pressure, without any kind of expectation, and just, without being interrupted for a job here and there. It's going to be great.
Right.
So
and
that's exciting.
That's such a good point too, because even for me, I mean, I have the possibility to just kind of sit and stare at my pieces every day, but and then rework them. But even within it, one painting shift, it's so easy. We're all so self-critical. You can be like, you know what, this is not working. I'm gonna paint over this, or I'm gonna start again. Every single time I do that now, I force myself to step back and just continue. And I don't know how many times I've ended up painting like one of my favorite paintings because I just worked through that process. It's kind of a working through process. So it's cool to hear you talk about that too.
Yeah, I really feel like the direction I have faith in the direction I'm going if I don't necessarily have faith in what I'm making right now.
Right. Yeah, you have faith in the end goal.
I have faith in the fact that I can take this somewhere interesting and satisfying, even though it's a bit of a struggle right now. We'll see what happens.
Well, maybe some great stuff's going to come out of that.
Yeah, hopefully, or maybe some crap. But
hey,
either way, something will come of it. So that will be good. Either way, I'll learn something. So that's.
So do you have? Sorry to interrupt. Do you have? Okay, so first of all, Kymm has got a show coming up at Shockbox Gallery in Hermosa Beach in July.
Yeah,
tentatively
in July.
Assuming we're not all dead by then.
Assuming we're not all dead. Yeah, and I'm just gonna get ready. Like I'm gonna plan like the biggest. It's the week of my birthday as well as hopefully a time that we're all safe and we can go out again in the summer. And it's gonna be a party. Like it's going to be a celebration. It's going to be a total celebration show. I hope.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that'll be so nice to be able to put all this behind us and to celebrate, your show and obviously your birth.
The birth is not as important as the show.
Sure it is. Come on. What was it? Come on, K-Swiss.
Right.
I told myself I was not going to do it, but I did. So do you have any pieces ready for the show, or are you kind of creating all new?
Sorry, you dropped out one more time.
Oh yeah, no problem. So do you have any pieces already created for the show, or are you just going to do all new work?
I'm going to just work. I have pieces already created that I could include. I want to see kind of what I come up with during this time. I have an idea for some specific new pieces that I want to create, but then I just kind of want to just keep exploring and see what I come up with. And if the pieces that I already have work with the direction of the other pieces, then great, I'll use them. If not, then hopefully I'll have new work that I can show. So it's exciting. But I have
Awesome.
The work that I've already created is work that has not been shown yet. So either way, it'll be new. Yeah, either way, it'll be new.
It'll be new to the public eye.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And I'm excited because who knows what's going to come out of this whole process? Like whatever is going to be kind of percolating or marinating in there through this whole scenario. It's going to be exciting to see that come out on canvas or wherever you're putting it.
Thank you.
I saw, it's funny. Obviously, I've seen your work in other shows too, but I think it was Powerhouse. Powerhouse was a show that was done at Shockbox Gallery. It was an all-woman show. Like Mike Collins, the gallery owner, put together a show of some of the best kind of LA working female artists, and you were one of them. And it was a great show, and I believe it was that piece. That was the piece that you also put into the back box later, right?
Yeah.
The large piece?
Yeah.
Oh man, when I saw that piece, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it as I was walking up to the gallery. Like I saw it from the street.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because sometimes you see, we're bombarded with images and paintings all the time as artists, but sometimes you see a piece and you're like, am I in a museum right now? What's going on? No,
man, thank you.
I love that piece. So I'm really excited to see what you come up with for the show. So how did you meet Mike Collins?
Mike Collins is just everywhere, all times. Like he just
omnipresent.
He is Mike Collins. I mean, how do you not know Mike Collins?
Right.
Oh my God.
It's weird because there's like pre Mike Collins and post Mike Collins.
Right.
Oh my God.
So I met Mike Collins. He came through. I actually wasn't there. I did Startup Fair. Startup Fair, I think 2 or 3 years ago. Okay. And Mike and Laura came through our room. I actually wasn't there that day. But my roommate was there and she said she met with them. But that was actually after I had a solo show at another gallery that I'm affiliated with. And I announced that on Los Angeles Art Association, and he reached out to me after that and was like, "Hey, I've got this gallery in Hermosa. I think your work would be a good fit." And, and I responded. I looked at one of the calls that he had, and I didn't think my work was right for that. So I just waited until there was a call and it was the Patty Astor, the Fun show. Oh, and I'm like, my work is definitely and so I submitted to that, and then that's awesome. How I kind of started hanging out with Mike and the crew in Hermosa.
It's cool, yeah. It's becoming a crew and a movement. It seems like what's going on with Shockbox is seeing everything like spread out. I'm excited for the potential of that gallery.
I'm excited to be involved in a supportive community because I feel like particularly with Shopbox, there is kind of a vibe of experimentation and kind of a vibe of it's not so much that pressure to sell, that pressure to produce and to sell and to, I don't want to use the word make product, but I've definitely felt that in other places that I've been involved with. And
like, you mean you're afraid they're going to drop you if you don't sell?
Yeah. Oh, right. I mean, the other main gallery that I am with is not like that either. They're actually, it's a similar vibe, but I have been, where I'm making work.
Can you name this gallery or is it?
Oh yeah. Wallspace. Yeah. I'm Wallspace LA. Yeah. No,
nice.
I've been with Wallspace for a long time, and it's a similar vibe. It's a community of artists. We help each other. We know each other. We get ideas, inspiration from each other. People send me notices for work or for calls that my work might fit. And I trust there has to be an element of trust with the person that's representing you.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
I feel that it's interesting, like with Mike and with Valda Lake, she's the one who runs Wallspace. Their heart, that like just everything about the way they run their gallery fits with my ethos.
Oh, that's awesome.
As far as putting the artist above, kind of, I don't want to say putting the artist above the profit, but kind of like that, like developing artists, helping artists, supporting artists, and being there for artists.
Like relationship first.
Absolutely, relationship first. Yeah, absolutely, relationship and the well-being of the artist.
Yeah, that's rare for anybody young who's like trying to get ahead in the art world. That's not the norm. So
it's absolutely not the norm.
Right.
It's absolutely, I cannot ever imagine like saying, could you paint this in this dimensions for this? Cause it'll look great on couches.
Right.
You know?
Can you put a little more yellow in this one to match the couch?
No, Mike would say green. Mike would say, put a little green in that.
Oh my God. That's so funny. It just reminds me of Basquiat, the movie Basquiat. He's got some people coming in and getting a sneak peek before he paints the show, and you're like, "Oh, no, this is kind of institutional. Can you put a little more blue in this?" He's like, "I can make it a nice shit brown for you if you want." I love it. But
that was a great movie.
I love that movie. I love that movie.
That was great.
Before I was when I was really struggling, there were two movies that kind of got me through. It was kind of because the two characters in it who were based on real people, Pollock and played by Ed Harris, and then Basquiat, Jeffrey Wright. It was like, man, you could see their struggle and the torment that they were going through, and then to see the success story. Both unfortunately ended tragically, but
yes,
but I always, oh man, it got me through some dark times. That's always cool to have. But I wanted to ask you, seeing as we talked about Mike a little bit, we talked about kind of, you know what? I don't think you talked about the transition you made though with your work. So what were you doing before you kind of developed this new style?
Yeah, so I was working in oil first of all, and now I'm working in kind of mixed media. I bounce between acrylic, flashy, spray paint, but I was working in oil, and I had kind of developed this very kind of graphic style. It was based on, I was using squares. I was doing abstractions with squares. So
kind of like geometrical.
Yeah, very geometrical. And that work did well. It was really well received. It sold really well. Some of my pieces from that time period, and I've been working that way for 12 years or so. I'd kind of developed it into a very controllable thing. It was a very, controllable, predictable, I could do commissions in a certain way. I knew what the outcome of each piece was. If
basically
that makes
what
sense.
They tell you to do is, like, if you're approaching a gallery or a dealer or somebody wants to sell your work, just continue to rinse and repeat the same style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is horrible for artists.
It's horrible for artists. And so I got into a lot of good shows. I got into one of the things that propelled my sales a lot during that time was two of my pieces were on Mad Men.
Oh man, I love Mad Men.
Yeah, so that I didn't even know what the show was at the time.
Now I want to go back and find them because that show had really good art.
It had really good art, and so it was towards the end of it. I think it was season 5 when Don Draper got a new apartment with his second wife. Anyways, so
I think I know the exact piece you're talking about. That's crazy.
So it was that. And that was a completely lucky coincidence. I had pieces getting ready for a show and in a framers, and the art director walked by and saw the pieces in the framers and went in and bought them for the show.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, but
so they didn't rent them. They bought them.
No, they bought them outright for the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Because for a lot of people who don't know, there's a lot of companies in LA who actually will rent art. They kind of just like store it and they rent it to TV shows and movies. So, and that's great too. It can be a steady source of income.
Absolutely.
But it also they get damaged a lot too.
They do get damaged sometimes.
So you kind of want it to be bought. So that's really cool that they did that.
Yeah. So that was lucky. And so I still have ambivalent feelings about everything, but about kind of my decision to change my style but I was just feeling really stifled. I was feeling stifled. I wanted to try and work with more pure abstraction and kind of do something more contemporary. My style fit very much into kind of this modernism, the appearance of modernism. And, I may go back to it because I really do love working in oil.
Yeah.
But I wanted something more immediate. I wanted a more immediate medium.
Yes.
And
for sure.
I wanted to, I'm self-taught. So I
Nice.
wanted to figure it out, figure out the new medium. And so I made this very abrupt switch. And it hasn't been received as well as my other work was.
Oh, really?
No, it hasn't.
That's so annoying.
It's also a good lesson because I'm comparing the way my work now is selling with the way my work was selling after 12 years of developing it.
Right.
So if
I would, might just need a little more time.
That's why I'm like, this is all a good lesson in patience and focusing on, okay, do I really enjoy the way I'm making work right now? Am I enjoying this? Is it feeding me? Is it exciting for me even with the struggles? And if the answer is still yes, then I'm going to continue making work this way.
Right.
I get oils out and I play with it every once in a while, but it's a very distinct style, what I was doing before. So it's not an easy blend of the two.
Right.
So because I've thought about, is there a way to blend the two? But there really isn't in my opinion. So,
well, and that's something that I think, first of all, a lot of people who don't do art for a living or haven't had a long run in the art world like you've had, it's easy for them to say, "Oh my God, you sold out," or whatever. Or if you try to think about the end result of this selling, then you're selling out, which is just a bunch of BS. I mean, obviously, you don't want to just be painting like whatever dog pictures with top hats. If you, I mean. No offense to anybody who paints dog pictures with top hats. That's great.
I know precisely what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as you're kind of feeding your own need, you're not putting yourself in a box and you're creating something that you want to create and it sells. Well, that's great. That's kind of the end goal. That's what we all want to be doing, right? Is selling our work and making a living as artists. So I completely understand. You're talking to somebody who did pop surrealism for 12 years. All I did was figurative work.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden, yeah. So like if you look at my old stuff, I've got like hundreds of paintings that are just dark pop surrealist pieces.
Really?
Oh yeah. That's all I did.
I so strongly think of the work that you're making now, and that interesting.
Yeah, well, I was an abstract artist at heart because the backgrounds of some of my pieces were very abstract, and I was kind of always like, I want to go in that direction. And then one day I just made the break, and luckily people like received it fairly well. But some people were like, well, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You paint figurative stuff." And I'm like, well. No, I paint what I want to paint. I paint what feeds me, like what you're saying. I think it's brave and it's really cool that you trusted your gut and went that direction.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking a little bit. A collector who had collected a lot of my earlier work recently and still follows me, saw something and was asking about something. Of course, it was an older piece. And there's still that tinge of like, oh, maybe maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. It's right. But that's about, I don't want to say it's not about creativity because it still is about creativity, but I was really burnt out with making the work that way. And I wanted to develop myself more. So I try and focus on that instead of the money.
Well, yeah. I mean, and isn't that what artists are supposed to do? They're supposed to evolve.
Yeah. But it's funny how so many people don't want you to, though. It's not that so many people don't want you to, but how I think especially now with Instagram and with all the social media, people, I feel like we're pigeonholed even more because we have all these platforms now to get our work out there, which is fantastic. But I also feel like it becomes easier to pigeonhole artists and people want to know, are you this kind of artist? Are you this kind of artist? Are you this kind of artist?
You mean like from like a branding standpoint?
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, I completely, I feel that like, it's interesting though. The one thing I will say to counter that, I completely agree with you. But the one thing I will say to counter that is that people have such a short attention span.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know.
Maybe not like legitimate collectors who've been following you for a while. Maybe that'd be kind of abrupt. But for people who like, I know people who follow my work and or like on Instagram every day, and I'll post something that I created like 3 years ago, and they're like, "Oh, this is new. This is great." And like, this is from 3 years ago, but thank you. I'm glad you like it. It just feels like people aren't really paying attention as much because we're bombarded by so much art nowadays.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's somewhere in between. But regardless, I think what you're doing is awesome. Like
Thanks,
I don't know if
Preston.
I don't know if I've seen your old stuff.
It's on my website, and
okay, we're gonna put a link to that, by the way.
Yeah, it's on my website under archive. So it's in the archive catalog that I have there. So I have all the old city structures and structure pieces, and so yeah, it's all there.
Oh, cool. See, but this is what I mean. Like you and I, we follow each other's work, and we both didn't know anything about our older stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had no idea that's what you did. I'm like, really? I want to check that out.
Yeah, we got to check it out now. It's funny because like I think we're all just focused on the current stuff and the present, which is good. I dig that, but it has its limitations too sometimes.
It does, but and you are right. It does serve a purpose. I think in our instant culture, it does definitely serve a purpose.
Instant culture. That's the new app coming out from Kymm Swank. So I wanted to talk to you. I think if you've heard this before, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your origin story. But I'm getting paranoid that my wife said that these Zoom calls you can only do for. Oh, maybe I shouldn't mention who this is. But anyway, hey, sponsorship. No, that they only go for 40 minutes. So I want to stop this, make sure we're all good, and then can I hit you back up for the last part of the interview?
Oh yeah, totally.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording right now. We're all good. Okay. I think
cool.
We're back. We're back. Oh, I wanted to ask you one thing about the solo show. Maybe more later, but do you have a name for it?
Not yet. I have a couple of ideas I'm tossing around, but I don't know yet.
Nice.
What I want to call it. So we'll see.
It might be evolving, right? Depending on what's going on in the world.
What's going on in the world, what's going on in my studio, you know. Right. I tend to name it after, like the times I've had solo shows before, I've named it after I made the work.
Oh, nice. No, yeah. I think that's a good way to do it. Then you don't have any like preconceived notions going into making the work too.
Yeah, at least for me. I mean, it works pretty well for me that way, but
okay, cool. We'll see. You are in downtown,
yeah,
Los Angeles, and you have your studio. Oh, my wife just came by. Say hi to Kymm.
Hi, Kymm.
Hi, how are you?
What's happening?
Can you pause and then
Oh my God. Okay. Sorry, we got to pause for a second.
Sorry.
Oh my God. I know. Tell me about it. We're back. I'm recording. So yeah, she's talking about first world privilege, but it's funny. Speaking of I should have just kept that going. Speaking of what's going on, Mags is trying to order something via Instacart because we're freaked out about going to the store. So they're like texting her in real time, like, well, we don't have this. We're out of this. So man, it's such a crazy world we live in right now. I mean, yeah, you're right. We have the privilege to be able to do this. I'm so thankful for that. I know a lot of people don't have that, but it's also at the same time, it's crazy that we're resorting to this at the same time. Because I've never used Instacart before.
Gabor, my boyfriend, for the first time ordered food delivery from Amazon, Whole Foods. And that was like an all-day affair trying to sort that. And it was like, he's like, I can't believe this. I mean,
I know. It's insane. And right now, I mean, you know, some companies are obviously thriving right now, like the food industry. I was in Trader Joe's the other day, and the guy said, "Oh, wow, you guys are really. This is like an apocalyptic scene, you know, from a zombie movie or something." He said, "Yeah, every day we sell out of our stock." He said,
"That's crazy.
A normal day we do like $40,000, and we've been selling $170,000 a day."
Holy shit.
Yeah,
that is crazy to me. I mean, why are people I get you don't want to go out, but you can go out once a week. I mean, we're not going to run out of food in the US. No. I mean, we're not. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, I agree. And just like we were talking about earlier, you're also just screwing over the people who can't do it or can't afford to do it.
Exactly.
It drives me crazy. But at the same time, I can understand the panic. I know the news also feeds the panic, but all of a sudden it hits home. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, it was like the other day when they put us on, essentially it's lockdown, but they call it safer at home for those of you who are not in California. But it's essentially a lockdown, a quarantine of everybody who lives in California, except for essential items like going to the store. But all of a sudden, from 1 minute to the next, it just got really real.
Yeah.
I know it was real. It was real in like this sounds weird, but real in an abstract way. You'd hear about the cases on TV. You were mindful of that and you were taking precautions, but all of a sudden it just hit close to home and you can't leave your house.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mags, for ordering our food.
Yay! Yes.
Yay! And Gabor also.
Yes.
That completely knocked me off, but we'll get back here. So now I wanted to talk to you about, I've been doing this origin story thing because I think of artists kind of like I think of superheroes. We do the things that a lot of people can't do or are afraid to do. It's very, I don't know, it takes a lot of guts and, like I said to Mike, audacity to think that we can do this.
It does, actually.
Yeah. And so I wanted to know what your origin story was a little bit. What got you into the mindset of thinking that you could pursue art as a career?
Well, that's kind of interesting. So I'm trying to think about that, like how that was, because my uncle was an artist, but he unfortunately was, from the time he was in his early 20s, institutionalized because he was severely schizophrenic.
Oh, wow.
But he was in art school when he was diagnosed. So I always kind of knew him as an artist and knew his artwork.
Right.
But he never made it. He couldn't have a career, unfortunately. But
that sucks.
Yeah. There were no other artists in my family, really, per se. At least none expressed artists.
Right.
I was actually, from a really early age, I was a dancer and an actor. So
I had a little note here. I was going to ask you about dancing. I heard from a little birdie that you were a dancer.
Yeah. So I started dancing when I was 5, and then I started acting when I was in elementary school.
Oh, wow.
In just kind of local productions. And I'm from Kansas City originally.
That's what I was going to ask. Okay.
Yeah, I'm from Kansas City originally.
Oh, they have acting in Kansas City?
They do. They have culture in the Midwest. In Kansas City.
I'm from Wyoming and Idaho, so that was a joke on me too.
you know the stereotype.
Yeah, definitely.
But so I was involved in that my whole life. I always kind of drew just for myself, and I would make things and paint. And I had one kind of arts class when I was in elementary school, and that was it. But I just kind of always did it. And so I went to college. I studied other things other than acting, somewhat more employable things, but my hours were all in theater. And then I moved here, and I wasn't really making art, making visual art per se, but I moved here and I was like, well, what do I need to do something with my life? I was 22. Let's learn about filmmaking. I really enjoy kind of visually telling stories. I'm going to get into the camera department. And so I started.
Which, by the way, I'm sorry, but that's not, I'm sure your parents weren't like, oh, that's a good fallback. The film industry.
Yeah. So this was just kind of always it was what I did. I was like, okay. I was too, at that time, I didn't have the confidence. I wanted to work as an actor, but I didn't have the confidence to directly pursue it at that time.
Okay.
So I went into the film industry and the technical aspects of it. As a fallback, I guess, which is really a fallback.
Right. But I guess it's more than an actor, right?
It's way more employable. The technical side of it is way more employable than anything on the creative side of it, obviously, because I'm still lucky enough to be employed from time to time. Yeah. And so I did that for a few years, and then I missed acting horribly, and I started taking acting classes again. And it was in one of my acting classes. It was a Meisner class, for anybody who knows what that is. So it was a Meisner class, and I needed an activity. And so I started painting as my activity in this Meisner class. And I just kept doing it. And so I hadn't really done any kind of thing painting wise or drawing wise since college. And, this was in my mid 20s. So still relatively young. Yeah. And then I just continued to do it. And I continued to teach myself and kind of develop. And I I'm not really directly answering your question. How did I decide I wanted to be an artist? I
No,
just
this is
kind of,
great.
okay. It's not, I
It
realize
can't
it's
always
like,
be like an aha moment, like something hits you on the head while you're walking down the street, and you're like, I'm going to be an artist.
yeah,
This is
no, it
good.
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't that. It was, and kind of most of the people that I'm around, I was around musicians and actors, and then as I developed my painting work, visual artists, painters, sculptors, photographers, um, and so it was just
That's
kind
awesome.
of the reality of it. And so I started showing my artwork at this little restaurant down the street from my acting school, and the pieces sold. Not for a lot, like $100 here, $80 there, but every month pieces would sell, and I'd have to put new pieces in. So I started doing that, and then I started showing it other coffee shops. This was in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then I moved downtown in 2002, I think. And that was right before it became the gentrified downtown that we know now. It was before that. So it was still very much, it was artists and a couple other random people who were living down here.
Right.
So when I did that.
Before it was a scene.
Yeah, there was no scene. When I moved down here, that's when I started really getting to know working artists, working painters, working gallery owners. And so my whole kind of introduction to the art world was through that, through Bert Green, who had his gallery here. He's the one who started the Downtown Art Walk that kind of exploded into something that he didn't. I actually knew him when he had his space in Los Feliz and was trying to create an art walk there. But then also through other artists and other painters that I met here, Miguel Osana and Richard McDowell, LA Art Corps. There was a lot of community support here. And so when I had a question about something like, oh, where do you get your canvases stretched? I would go ask them and they would point me in a direction. Or, what resin do you use? I was doing work with resin and at the time, and where do you get your resin from?
Was super popular.
Yeah. And so it's like, where do you get your resin work? Or where do you source your resin from? And so it was very much kind of that old school kind of idea, like what you imagine Paris, the left bank of Paris was, during its heyday, of a whole bunch of artists that I had access to, Gronk was another big artist.
Oh yeah.
And he was around a lot, Francesco, who had Nopal Press. These were all people who were really giving of their knowledge and their, resources and helping artists in the community. And then it of course became something else. But when Fittipaldi had his drawing, which were mostly drinking, but there was drawing, there was some drawing that went on.
They go hand in hand.
In his loft, he would have these open drawing classes for all the neighborhood artists, and it was great. Yeah, I was very lucky. So I was kind of there at that time, and then that kind of really, I started showing at little places here and there, downtown, and.
Was the Hive around? Was Nathan Carter?
Oh yeah, the Hive
part
was
of that scene, right?
Yeah, the Hive was there.
Yeah.
The Hive came a little bit later, but the Hive was there.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was a great time, and I was really lucky because I kind of learned about the art world through them, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna, this is what I'm gonna do. So,
but that's amazing. First of all, I mean, I'm jealous because I was always looking for a scene too, and being part of a scene is so important, to have a community. That's kind of what I wanted to do with this podcast, was have a little bit of a community of artists too. But when I came down here, I think I came down around the same time. It was like 2002. You might have been here a little earlier than me, but I had no idea about the downtown scene until years later. So was it kind of insulated? Does it seem like that if you were down there, or maybe I was just insulated? Maybe I was too isolated. I didn't know about it.
Yeah, it was always here. I mean, so I moved to LA in 96. I'm sorry, 96.
Oh, okay.
And so I had a little bit of exposure downtown from shooting down here, but it was always like a ghost town at night. Nobody, even though there were people here. Gabor, my boyfriend, he's been living downtown for almost 25 years.
Oh, that's cool.
So there are a lot of people who've been here for a long time in the arts community here, because it was the dream. You could get
huge spaces. Nobody cared what you did. And, nobody was down here. It was a little bit insulated because of that, because people just were afraid to come. Even when I moved down, the first few years that I lived down here, people were like, I can't believe you lived there. And I'm like, I can, and I'm not telling you because it's great. It's fantastic.
Exactly. And now it's becoming more gentrified, obviously.
Oh, it's great. It's like anywhere else. It's like any other. Sadly, to me, what was so unique about it is all completely gone. It's gone. Even though some of the people are still here, a few of them, what we were doing, the crazy stuff we would do. Like, I remember a friend of mine wanted to be a fashion designer, so we're like, all right, we're going to throw you a fashion show. So we didn't get permits. We just, in an alley, in one of these big alleys off of 4th Street, we put together a fashion show just for fun. We would just do stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Was that before the fashion district was like a big deal, or? Oh
no, that was still, the fashion district was still there. The wholesale fashion wholesale district was there. That's always been going on. But we would just do stuff in the streets all the time, and in people's spaces and their galleries. Like, it was that whole kind of cauldron of creativity that was happening at that time. So
it reminds me of what I know of the abstract expressionist movement here in New York. When you had
very much like that.
You had de Kooning and Pollock and all these people. Krasner. Yeah, that's awesome. I wish I would have been a part of that, but now I'm living vicariously through you.
It was one of the luckiest times of my life, and to experience that and have been around and a part of that, kind of on the fringe, because I was establishing myself. I wasn't as established as these other folks.
Yeah.
But just to have been a part of that was fantastic. It was great.
That's so amazing. Well, and now maybe we can kind of continue that a little bit in Hermosa Beach.
And that's kind of the same vibe. That's kind of the same vibe that I feel there, which was like creating for the sake of creating, making art for the sake of making art, or for trying to say something, or for trying to experiment with something, or see where this goes. And it's very much that kind of vibe. It's a supportive vibe. It's not a competitive vibe. And you do get that competitiveness a lot in a lot of places, unfortunately. And it's hard. So it's nice to be around people who are genuinely supportive. It's really great.
It's amazing. The only drawback is we have to drive. It's not like being a part of the downtown scene where you can just, everybody's all around you. We got to drive like an hour to get there.
Oh, there you are. You came back. You fell out for a minute. You're
I've
back.
always been here, Kymm. Okay, it got creepy. No, Mike, could you move the gallery closer to us? And then
just come a little closer, Mike.
Exactly. Well, that's cool. No, thanks for sharing the origin story. It's funny. It's not too different from mine, actually. I was, although I wasn't surrounded by artists and musicians and actors, I did the same thing. I went through all the same channels, doodling as a kid, wanting to be an actor. I wanted to be an actor and a stand-up comedian and an artist. I wanted to do everything. So it's cool to hear the same thing from you. What kind of dancing did you do?
I did. So I trained a lot in ballet.
Oh, nice.
I trained in ballet. I kind of stopped taking dance classes. I mean, I took like the random flamenco class, but
right.
when I was older. But I stopped like really seriously training when I went into college, because I knew I was never going to have a career as a dancer. You
just eat, breathe, and sleep dancing, right?
True. Yeah, true. But unfortunately for me, especially kind of because modern dance was not really, or, things like the Heidi Drucker Dance Company, things that like the work that they do now, that was, even though that was happening in the world, that was not really accessible to me as much in Kansas City. So I was kind of trained in these traditional ways. And I knew that, I would not have a career in those worlds, just the way my feet were formed.
Right.
Just the physical structure of it. So, and that's also when kind of the acting bug took over and really took over. So
you were the Renaissance woman.
Dilettante, yes.
Dilettante. I like that better. Okay. So that's awesome. I'm always trying to get a couple little tips and, tricks for kind of emerging artists at the end here. What would you say, or if you have one, like you have like a secret weapon as an artist or something, a go-to that kind of allows you to excel, or something that some sort of habit that you do that cultivates your art practice? Do you have any? It could be dietary, it could be working out, it could be anything. Is there something that kind of gets you into that state, or allows you to kind of work at a peak level as an artist?
Well, I have a couple of little tricks. I do have like one or two little tricks, but the main thing for me, then this is just a very personal thing, is I need unstructured, unscheduled. Like I need, that's why currently right now, this is fabulous. Like if I have something to do in the afternoon, it's very hard for me to, get into a space to work if I have something to do, because my mind will go to the controllable, the knowable, the linear, the doable. And so if I have anything, even if it's just like, oh, I need to go do this or do this or do this, or sometimes even making dinner is enough to, I'm very delicate. Making dinner is enough for me to, my mind will tend to focus on those things instead of, I have nothing to do other than be here. And
like something that's tangible, you'd gravitate towards that.
The amount of times that I can check my bank account when I'm working, like just random stupid things. Like, so for me, really, and think that I really need to know this right now. Did that check clear? Did that check clear?
Right,
no.
Right.
So for me, it's kind of knowing myself well enough to know that I need to create that kind of environment as much as possible, which isn't always possible, but try and allow myself that, or at least mentally get into that space.
So you basically have to plan. You have to plan for your unstructured periods.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Like correct. Like I'll go for a run in the morning and I'll do all that stuff that I need to do. And then from 10 a.m. on, it's, I have nothing to do until dinner, like those kind of things when that's possible, because that's not always possible. But,
that's perfect.
Yeah, that's for me. Also, I read, the two things. One thing is if I come and just not to judge how much I work or how well I work, any of these things, but if I work, because sometimes for me that could be just putting a background down, like I use a lot of water, and it requires a lot of time for things to dry to kind of let things settle. As long as I did something towards it, then I feel good about that, and allowing myself to feel good about that, because sometimes I can work intensely all day and sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Right. So to just be like, all right, whatever you do, like make something, do something, and then that's enough. So that's something that I always try and tell myself if I'm struggling, or kind of a discipline to keep with.
That's huge. I mean, making sure that you treat it almost like a day job. Whether a lot of people are waiting for the inspiration to strike,
no,
for the muse.
Work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
That doesn't
it
work.
Works like when you're first starting, it's like, oh, I'm inspired. But then when you realize you have to start doing this and cultivating it every day, you have to throw that out the window.
Totally. And it's like, so it's like, get in there just so some canvases, just do something that way, and do something towards it. If you don't feel like creating per se, then do something to allow yourself to create the platform for you to do that easily. Those are things that I do. And then there was something that I tell myself a lot, because a lot of the way that I work and the materials that I work with are unforgiving. The spray paint is notoriously unforgiving.
Yes.
So, oh my God. So
it's down.
It's down. Like you can't. I can't remember who said this. It was somebody like Ellsworth Kelly or somebody. It was one of those big artists. Yeah. And they said they would tell themselves, or maybe it might have even been Picasso. I don't think it was Picasso, but they always would tell themselves, I wish I could attribute the quote correctly. They say that there's nothing that I can do that I can't paint over.
Right.
So what that does for me is that kind of alleviates that pressure of making the right mark or of making mistakes. Because I feel that, a lot of times I see a canvas and I want to try something, but I know if I fuck it up, then it's irrevocable, and then I try myself that I think of them saying that there's nothing that I can do that I can't paint over. Like,
that's great.
Just try something. So those are the kind of little things that
No, that's amazing. And it's funny because just to further that, as an artist, when you work for decades, you start to amass a big body of work, right? And storing those are very difficult. So I was forced to, at a couple of points in time, to kind of reassess some of my older pieces and which ones I think were working, which ones I wouldn't even show like down the road in a retrospective or something. So I would just kind of paint over certain canvases.
Totally.
And some stuff that didn't work anymore, it ended up becoming a great like surface texture for me for a new painting.
Absolutely.
And it just kind of furthers your point that you're never really done, and you can always change things and adapt.
Absolutely. Totally.
Those are great. Thank you so much. On the flip side, what about, have you had any like biggest failures or a failure in the art world that at the time was maybe devastating for you, but you learned a lot from it and maybe it became something that was a positive in the end?
So this is what I would say the first thing that came to mind when you said that is, for me, it's been not using archival materials. So, because I'm self-taught, so I'm somebody who naturally gravitates towards being in the moment and just wanted to grab whatever and do whatever and not pay any attention to any of the formal rules of the materials that I'm using. And I don't want to waste my time on that. I want to create, all those things.
Right.
So in two cases, one, when I was working with oil, I didn't know anything about the proper application of oil, of which there's a big, important chemistry behind it.
Yes.
And I had sold pieces, and a woman contacted the dealer that I was working with at the time and was like, "This piece is cracking."
Yeah.
And that's when I first learned about fat over lean, which is a very basic principle in oil painting.
Right.
And so, yeah, these are very embarrassing things, but this is a tendency that I have in myself of just wanting to get in there and make stuff and not pay attention to things. So luckily the woman was very gracious and I was able to fix it. And, and I learned a huge lesson from that. But I didn't learn it well enough, because later when I was doing different kind of work, and I didn't really know much about the resin work that I was doing, I was having somebody fabricate these huge resin pieces for me. So because I couldn't do 5 foot by 5 foot pieces in my studio, so I was having them, but I didn't ask them enough questions, and they gave me a really great deal, and this is great.
Oh, those pieces. One second, real quick.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, we're back.
Problem there. We're back.
We're back. So I was talking about, I was having pieces fabricated, and I did not do enough research into the fabricator and the materials they were using.
Yeah.
And so I have a series of about 4. I have almost an entire series of artwork that I cannot sell because the resin coating is yellowing. It's interacting. Yes. It's interacting. Resin does anyways,
with white, right?
As I later found out, but it's interacting with a very specific white spray paint that I use.
Yeah.
And it's yellowing. So I invested thousands of dollars thinking I was actually getting a good deal in pieces that I won't sell, because I again, the archival quality of them, I can't predict. So
right. I've heard that. I've also heard that with white. I don't know if it's white in general, because I heard from a resin artist that even like an acrylic white paint will do the same thing over time.
Yeah, this was a spray paint. And it was a specific spray paint, and it would yellow every instance where I used it. It would yellow, and it's heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. It didn't take long. It was within a year that I saw this.
Oh, man.
It was within a year. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Yeah. So the lesson I've learned from both of these things is, even though it goes against my nature of kind of like, fuck it, I can, Basquiat used latex paint, that kind of thing,
right,
is that if I really, to consider myself a professional and to put something out there that people are going to invest thousands of dollars on, it's my responsibility to make sure it's of the highest quality.
Right. And that it'll stand the test of time a bit too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny too, how these things, it's a learning process. Like, for me, I use a lot of really thick texture too, and discovering that the change of seasons. Like when I first started moving up to the valley, and we'd get these extreme heat, and then cold at night.
Yeah,
it would start to kind of not crack, but almost like bubble and crease some of the texture. And sometimes it looks pretty cool, but it's the same principle. Like you gotta know your medium a little bit. And what it's going to do over time, or with the right.
Because it
or
really
wrong
does.
temperature.
It really does matter. Like these, it's not just about you creating in the moment. It's about what you're giving to your audience. I mean, that's, of course you can argue that, but to me, I care about what I'm giving people, and
Yes.
I need to, and it's my responsibility to ensure that it is of the highest quality.
Right. Yeah. And if they're paying top dollar for it too, of course.
Yeah. And I want them, I want them to pay top dollar for
Yeah,
it. So I'm
exactly.
going to do what I can to help that process.
So you want them to know that you're giving them the best product that you can.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Okay. That's good. And then do you have any advice for young Kymm? If you were young Kymm right now and you were speaking to your older, wiser, cave woman self,
So
what would you say?
so unruly. I would say just keep doing it. Just keep doing it, no matter what.
Yeah.
Just keep creating. Just keep doing it. Yeah, that's the only thing. Just keep doing it.
It's so true. It's so true. There's so many things that have happened in my art career where I thought it was over. I thought I thought I'd made it and I didn't make it, and then it's just devastating. But you just find that the longer you go, the more things happen. It's never over, and I always find, and maybe you do too, even some of these things that were devastating at the time, like I wouldn't have them any other way now.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's they're all learning experience. Every rejection that I've got, even I was a friend of mine just got a horrible rejection, nasty rejection.
Oh,
and
the worst.
It's a horrible, but people still do them and people get them. And, it's like, now I'm like, I remember I would take that so personally. It helps you. All these things help you because really at the end of the day, it's about you and the work that you're making, and all the other things. You develop a way of dealing with those things after time, over time. So all those horrible things contribute to kind of a sense of peace now. Like I can be at peace with the world.
Yes. Oh my God.
to a certain extent. You know what I mean? To a certain extent.
Me too.
Not always. And of course the rejections still sting and the acceptances still make me feel like I'm a rock star. But it's nothing is as dire as it used to be.
No, and also, when you get a rejection, it's just a sign that you're moving forward. First of all, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And then B, did you really want to work with this person?
Yeah, exactly.
If they're that nasty to you, because that's coming from a place of unhappiness. So you really don't want to be working with people like that anyway. I'm getting happy with where we're at, but was there anything else, like anything you wanted to vent before we go? Obviously we're going to get where people can find you, but is there anything else on your mind during these times that you just want to leave us with?
Stop hoarding. It's going to be all right.
Stop hoarding. We need to get billboards. We need to buy billboard space and just say stop hoarding.
Just stop hoarding, y'all, right now. Just stop it. Like there's going to be food and there's going to be toilet paper. Like just y'all, come on. Anyways.
Come on. Yeah, we'll get through it. Come on.
What I do want to say is I did check out your website and I love you. I did. Yeah. I love your surreal stuff. Like I had no idea you did that shit. Like that was great. That was crazy.
Thank you. Yeah. I was in a dark place for many years when I was doing that stuff. And I love it. Like I still will do a surrealist piece from time to time or a commission. But yeah, I don't have the urge. I feel like I got all that out of my system or something. I don't know. But thanks for checking it out.
I totally did. And your neutrals too. I really like your neutrals.
Thanks.
Yeah, those are really. I haven't seen that work because the stuff that you're putting out now is different. But I really like the neutral series as well. That's really cool.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we're done with this, I'm going to go over your website. I'm going to link to it first of all so people can find you, and then I'm going to check out your older stuff too, because I have a special place in my heart for geometrical work too. But cool. Where can people find you if they want on the interwebs?
So on the interwebs, I come out of my cave and I send smoke signals to Instagram, and I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram, Kymm Swank. That's me.
SWANK, right?
Yeah, SWANK. And then my website is www.kymmswank.com.
Awesome. And you're not on Facebook, right?
I'm not on Facebook. No, I'm not on Facebook.
Good
or Twitter.
For you.
Yeah.
Another thing I envy you for. No, that's awesome. Well, Instagram and your website are plenty. So check out Kymm Swank's work. It's awesome. I'm going to go check it out too, check out her older stuff. But yeah, thanks so much for doing this. I'm glad we finally got a chance to do it, and we were able to do it even with the quarantining.
I feel even more like a hero now.
Yes.
I feel
You
even
are a
more
hero.
like a superhero now that we did this. No,
See, there you go. That's
it was
what
great
that's what
talking
I'm
with
here
you,
for.
Preston.
It was great talking to you too.
Talking with you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to your show and seeing you around Shockbox when we're all out and about again.
Awesome.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This has been the Living Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I just want you to know that I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful to be in your ears. Your art and creative life on this planet is meaningful, so thank you for sharing it with me. If you like this podcast, whatever platform you're listening to it on, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also leave me a positive review to show your support. This helps me to reach more people with the algorithmic magic and keep the show going strong. If you want to see more of what I do and check out the art that I create, you can visit my website at www.pmsartwork.com or follow me on social media everywhere at PMS Artwork. That's it for now. See you back here next time.